Hello there, Internet, and welcome to a map video. I had to think for a split second then about how I was going to introduce this. This is, of course, not a Metroidvania map announcement video because Mina the Hollower is not a Metroidvania. There are no Metroidvania elements in Mina the Hollower, nor realistically are there many Zelda elements in Mina the Hollower. Mina the Hollower looks like one of the old kind of Game Boy Color or Game Boy Zelda games. Link's Awakening, my first real kind of console gaming experience, or Oracle of Ages and Seasons around 2000. But it's not got the Zelda game structure at all. There are dungeons, kind of, but there's no dungeon items. As far as I'm concerned, that is what makes the structure of a Zelda game. Go into a dungeon, grab an item, that item helps you complete the dungeon, be it a boomerang or a hookshot or a bow or whatever, a bug net. And then it lets you or helps you get to the next dungeon by going across the map. And there's none of that in this. You can go to any of the 6 dungeons in any order you want. There's no gating or anything, save for a slight kind of progression of difficulty, I guess you could say. Although I have thoughts about the difficulty quote-unquote curve in Mina the Hollower. But I'm going to try and keep this video purely about the map. My thoughts on Mina will be in a separate video if I can be bothered. This map is made up, well, the 2 maps that I've done are made up of 1,700 screenshots. I'm going to zoom in. I'm just going to show you how stupid I am. That was not quite as dramatic as I intended it to be. 1,700 720p screenshots. So I played the game at 720p because it was just too big to play it at 4K on a 32-inch monitor. So this is the scale that I played the game at. And if I zoom in really far, you can see that 1 pixel is actually 5 pixels. So technically speaking, I played the game at 500% of the game's native pixel art scale. And I chose to make the map at that scale because if I'd done it at the actual scale, which is kind of roughly like that, it loses a lot of detail and it just becomes noise. And if there's one thing that I will really praise, is that I absolutely adore the pixel art in this game. I think it is so well done. So I wanted to show it off. And you can tell it's made with screenshots because Mina's all over the place. I did not go out of my way to erase Mina from every single screen because that would have taken hours. And even putting together the base map for this took a long time. So long, in fact, that I'm not entirely sure how long because I have not risked counting it up because I suspect it might be a little bit of a shock to my system. Now, some of you will know that at the game's launch, IGN and shortly after launch, Gamers Guides already had maps, interactive maps available online. And for about 24 hours, I was like, yeah, I don't need to do this, do I? There's no point me putting together a map because there's already stuff available. It's going to take me a long time to even play the game because it's a 20 to 30 hour game and to take screenshots of every single room and every single screen. That's going to take me a long time. What is the point? But you know me, I really liked seeing the game. And the one thing that both the Gamer Guides and the IGN interactive maps didn't do was really show me the game. And this is no slight to them, but they clearly had either debug tools or a debug build or dev assistance or something, especially the IGN one, because you can still see some of the kind of behind the scenes game stuff in there, and all of the NPCs are missing, all of the breakables are missing, all of the enemies are missing, all of the kind of details are missing. It's just the kind of basic world, and for some people that might be really useful and really readable, just in terms of what is roughly where. But for me, I wanted to see the world, and the Gamers Guide map also doesn't have things like the enemies on, So for the most part, this map is based on, well, this is how I played it. I played through the game from start to finish for this particular file using modifiers, because I wasn't going to play it through again properly. So I got the floating on pits thing on, I got infinite health and so on and so forth. I played through the game, quote unquote, properly, from start to finish, and each time I entered a new room, I tried to take screenshots of that entire room, leaving as many of the enemies as alive as I could, unless they got in the way. So you'll see enemies all over the map, leaving as many of the bushes uncut, chests unopened. I've just realised there's actually a little gap there, which I'll go and... oh no, is that a pit? Is that a pit, or is that something that I've messed up? No, that actually is a pit. Those of you who watched my map videos before know that A, I do them live with no script, and B, I almost always find things that I've messed up somewhere. With this one, there will undoubtedly be mistakes all over the place. I've tried to, and there's some examples here of where I've screwed it up. I've tried to make sure that all ropes are dropped. So even if they're not dropped when you first get there, I've tried to go back and make sure that I've taken additional screenshots with the rope being dropped so that you can see that. Likewise, I've tried to make sure that all of the key locks remain closed so that you can see those. I've tried to make sure that all chests are still there, although I haven't quite managed to do that in a couple of places because I screwed up. I'll see if I can catch that again. Yeah, I've tried to... there's some bits, obviously, in Nox's Bayou where you've got the poison raising and lowering. I had to fudge my way around that. I'm not super happy with it, but there are certain rooms that you can't get to without it being in a certain state. So, yeah, it's all there in terms of backgrounds. Now, if you are going for 100% completion of this game, you'll be able to get from the Hollowers Guild an enhanced map, and the enhanced map, such as it is an overview world map style thing of each zone, and for each one it tells you what is hidden in that area. And none of the interactive maps had that information on. And that really bugged me, actually. That really bugged me. If you've used my Prince of Persia Lost Crown map, you'll know that one of the most useful things in that game for me was the area completion statistics. So I've added on and expanded those area things onto this map image, and I've done a couple of things with that. So first of all, we'll look at the Ossix one for this. This is laid out pretty much exactly as it is in-game. So health roses, trinkets, gears, weapon chests, and so on and so forth. It tells you how many of those there are. For all of the areas except Ossix, because there's 15 of those, and there's loads of weapons, and there's loads of upgrades. I'll talk about Ossix in a minute, because I've got a second map open here, which I'll show you shortly. But for each of the other areas, not only have I got the completion tracker, but I've actually broken it down into what are the things that you can find in each zone. So there's 5 trinkets. Okay, which of those do I have? Let me check my inventory. Oh, I've got the Wallower's Gauntlets. I've got the Lightning Grip. Or, actually, I mean, the Lightning Grip is probably the one that you would miss, most likely. Ones with a little $ next to are ones that you can buy from a merchant. And the merchants have all got little call-out boxes, as well as icons on the map where they are. I might admittedly change those icons to make it clearer which is the merchant. That is something I've literally just thought about. So I might do that when I reopen the map. Opening this map and saving this map takes a while because there's a lot on it. There's a couple of versions of the ship. So these item trackers I thought were very, very useful. And I've already seen a lot of people talking about the bone stones. Oh, there's 5 bone stones in this zone and I've missed one, or there's 6 bone stones. So what I have done for each zone is I have actually annotated, not just with an icon, but I've actually said, okay, this is Loner's Landing 1. This is Loner's Landing 2. They're not in any order that I picked them up or anything like that. They're just numbered. There are a couple of areas, like, for example, this section here. If you go to this borderline between Sandfalls and Bone Beach, this room here, the one that the spark generator's actually in, I don't know why they've done this. This counts as Bone Beach. It looks like Bone Beach. No. It looks like Bone Beach. It counts for Bone Beach, but actually it isn't part of Bone Beach. If you go to this screen in-game, it comes up with Sandfalls. If you go into your menu and look at the top of the screen, it says this is in Sandfalls. This is definitely in Sandfalls. It's purple and everything, but it's got one of the Bone Beach bone stones. So I don't know whether that will get fixed. I think it's a little bit messed up. I don't think it really matters because it's on the border. But if you are looking for a bone stone in Bone Beach and you've gone across here and thought, well, I mean, to be honest, if you're looking for them, this one isn't particularly difficult to find. But this counts for Bone Beach. It's strange. So anyway, I've been through and I've numbered each of them and I've given them a little letter code so that you can tick them off and you say, yeah, I've got that one, I've got that one, I've got that one. I know what that counts for. This cave system here is that's just a room. But the cave system that I think I probably need to do is the cave system underneath this area. I don't know where I'll put it. I'm probably going to have to shift it down there or something. But the jewel box and the southern outskirts gems, that's not particularly helpful. I don't think it being there. I've put on ledges in cave systems. But there's also I don't think that's super helpful. Likewise, in Ossix, there are a lot of things inside houses. And I'll talk about, again, Ossix in a second. I'm just kind of going through stuff. So yeah, these call-out boxes I found very useful when I was 100%ing the game. They are there to help, realistically, and to provide you with a checklist as you go on an image that you can look at, rather than having to look up a separate guide. Because as I said, none of the interactive maps I've seen have got that kind of information on. When it comes to sticking together the world, for the most part, it fits together reasonably nicely. You know, you can travel in a straight line through the wilds, up through Kindlewood, up through Septemberg, all the way to the tower, and then you can go through the sewers to get back to Kindlewood. But there are certain areas, like this bit here, for example. This bit here, the manor overlaps with this little mountain. This little mountain these rooftops here should be here, and it should go over that bit, and it just looked messy. Likewise, this is arguably the bit where my heart sank a bit. This section here, yeah. So say this area, is that showing up on the, yeah. This area here was the worst offender for overlap. So this specific bit here actually overlaps this chunk here. And it's a bit of a shame, but it is what it is. Hopefully you can see what I have done in order to get that working. Otherwise, yeah, this all links up. Obviously, this is a dungeon, so that's fine. This bit here, this is where another one of the overlaps would happen. If I'd put the entrance to the crypt behind this door, then it would have overlapped with the mountain. But it is a dungeon, so I'm not too bad about putting it out on its own like that. Arguably the weirdest link up, I suppose, and I appreciate that this video is going on for a bit, but I think people might be interested in the stuff. Obviously, you start the game here, down in the corner, and you work your way up through Loner's Landing, through the outskirts, fight the mini-boss, into the city. But if you go just out of the city, left and down, it takes you all the way down here, and I had to make a choice. Which way am I going to link this up? Because you can, if I took out the Renegade Barracks here, this section actually does technically fit here. But then this bit overlaps into the city. And then when it connects up down at the bottom here to the start of the game, there's a big gap. So for space reasons, in order to make Nox's Bayou and Backwater as seamless as possible, I just made the decision to link it up like that. It worked better for me with a single line and no overlap. So hopefully that is clear to everybody. As you can tell, it's a busy map because it is quite dense with things to find. And there are bits and pieces kind of all over the place where I've just had to fit things in where I can. You know, the mana, for example, had to go all the way up here because it was just going to overlap on either side with other stuff. So we've got nice clear lines to connect things together. Some of the later zones are quite bitty, and you need all of them. Well, the mana, mostly. The mana and the Dreadfish's Maw, whatever it's called, they were the ones that required the most lines to link things up. I really enjoyed this dungeon. I liked how it kind of took you in and out into the open world and then back into the creature. I also really enjoyed the Radiant Mana, although I must admit this section here was really unclear. You're supposed to be in a greenhouse and silhouetted, and it's like I can't actually tell what's going on there. The Astral Orrery I've just fitted together as I could. But yeah, I mean, it is a really good looking pixel art game, and I really enjoyed seeing it grow and get put together as I was mapping it. Just seeing how it all fit together in a way that wasn't just kind of dev-assisted debug mode, you know, no items, no enemies, not just the backgrounds, but the actual world. And again, this is not me throwing shade at any of those teams that worked on the IGN map or the Gamers Guide map, and I'm assuming they were teams. The Gamers Guide people have said they had a small team working on this. I did this all on my own. Just me, and if that makes me sound a little bit prideful, yeah, hell yeah. 1,700 screenshots taken by me. In fact, let me show you the screenshots. This is the screenshots, and you're thinking, why is there a big pink line at the bottom? Demajen? If I just disable the layer mask, there's a layer mask there that I've just cropped off the bottom, and then I can click on that and I can just capture the screenshot that I want. So I print screen the game, come over to here, paste into the group, and because I'm using the same size screenshots all the time, it just fits nicely onto there. Then I control click the mask to select the bit that's masked out, and then control C to copy, and then control paste to put it into the document, put it together. There's loads of overlapping bits. There's loads of bits where, the rooms are bigger than just one screen and so on and so forth. It's a giant composite map of a kind that I have done before, but I've never done one like this. Not for this scale, not for this detail. If you've looked at my Guns of Fury map, for example, which was one of the biggest composite maps I've done, I didn't have to do it like this for that, because I could see the rooms. It's a Game Maker Studio game. I can literally just see the room. I have got no tools whatsoever to assist me with this map. It all had to be done by hand, which is why Mina is in all of the screenshots, unless I got her standing on a nice black pit, in which case I might have just erased her as I go. So it's a big map to put together. The problem for me is OSIX, because it's very dense and I just don't have enough room to really make this clear. So, map number 2 is this one. And this is just OSIX. So all of the stuff that's kind of crammed on with notes about, this is inside, or this is in the weaponsmith, or what have you, it's all just laid out in here like this. You've got the trinket shops, you've got the upgrades available from various places, sells 9 keys. This shows you much more clearly where the things in OSIX actually are. Including the thermal pack. I'm not sure actually off the top of my head whether the thermal pack counts for OSIX or for Sandfalls. No, Bone Beach, which is where you rescue the Forgotten Say. I'll double check that. But yeah, so I did a second map for OSIX just because I think this is messy and unclear. And whilst it does go some way to show you that, yes, there's a lot of stuff to find in OSIX, actually does that section of the map help you find it? Not really. So there's a separate OSIX map just for clarity's sake. So there we go. My Mina the Hollower map guide. There are obviously, I've talked about them already. In fact, I believe there's another 1 or 2 at this point. They're probably all based on the same code because that's the way these tips websites tend to work. There are multiple interactive maps out there for Mina the Hollower at this point. They are free to use. They're not free if you want to actually track stuff. They all require subscriptions or accounts or what have you, which I assume you have to sign up for or pay for. I don't know. I don't use any of them. I just know that they exist. This is the bit that people are going to be pissed off by. Just like my Guns of Fury composite map or my Ender Lily composite maps, the maps that have taken ridiculous numbers of hours to do. This is only in my coffee shop, my coffee.com/Demajen store. I've put so many hours into this. This is just for the people that want to support me and that want this kind of information and just want to kind of support the work that I do. If you don't want to pay, that's absolutely fine. There are free interactive maps available online, and I've shown you basically everything in this video. If you want to go through and stop and pause and so on and so forth, you can do that. So this full thing only available in my coffee.com shop. Map of OSIX, free for everybody. That's in the Google Drive. You can go and look at that right now. If OSIX is all that you're struggling with, you can go to the Google Drive, you can look at this, go nuts with it. I'm absolutely fine. I've already had a couple of people say, yeah, the OSIX stuff's really helpful. I was really struggling to find bits in OSIX. Cool. if I can help people out by just giving this to everybody, so be it. But if you want the fruits of my however many hours labour it's going to be, now I've got 42 plus hours game time. Is that right? 43.3 hours at time of recording is how much game time I've got in this so far. And, you know, I'm going to do another playthrough to check stuff. Because, as I said, there's probably mistakes on here. And there's certain things that I'm not entirely sure how they count up and so on and so forth. I need to play through again, but I've got other things that I want to do first. So, yeah. I imagine that will get me a chunk of downvotes on the video, assuming anybody's watched through 25 minutes of me rambling, which is, it's not a given, let's be honest. But I really enjoyed putting this map together and seeing this huge world come to life. There are so many pieces of amazing pixel art and great colour palette usage and interesting tricks to make things look alive, and the music is great and the sound effects are great. I'm not going to talk about the gameplay because we're talking purely about exploration and aesthetic here. There's secret things hidden all over the place. If you like exploration and you like Game Boy Color, Zelda style pixel art, this is a really good experience. This room was an absolute ball ache to map, by the way, because the walls move. So trying to get this so that wall sections are all in the same place each time. Oh my god. I mean, you can see from the amount actually that Mina is on here that I had to take a lot of screenshots. She's been removed there because she was standing over pits. Yeah. And as I said, you can tell that I was using the assist modes for this because she's just doing the walking on pits thing. If you are struggling with the platforming in Mina, I highly recommend turning on the walk on pits options or the no damage from pits options if you don't want to go that far. It lets you walk on water as well, so that really helped with filling out the squares in the bayou and backwater and so on and so forth, because you can just walk on stuff. The assists were very helpful for putting this together. If there's one thing that I will say about gameplay in Mina the Hollower, and I've been umming and ahhing about mentioning this at all, I was one of those people, and I've always been one of those people that's like, I like 100% in games, and I like getting trophies for 100% in games. Don't, unless you really absolutely want to have the most vanilla experience possible, do not be afraid to use the plethora of assist mode modifiers in this game. Yes, most of them disable the achievements, and there's some discourse online about whether that is a good thing or a bad thing. My personal opinion, I'm not actually a fan of it. I prefer that there's a hard mode achievement that you have to do vanilla, but everything else, whatever. You know, for the hard mode, make it so that people have to go through without using any mods whatsoever. That's fine. Everything else, just let people, you know, play the way that they want. But yeah, don't be afraid to use the modifiers unless you absolutely have to get all the achievements. And even then, you could do it on a second playthrough or a third playthrough or whatever. Just enjoy exploring the world and the dungeons and so on and so forth, because there is a lot to like here, but the difficulty curve is weird. I've spoken in other videos about how in games like Super Metroid, you know, you can get really powerful in some games if you explore fully and pick up all the things. And Mina the Hollower is very much like that. You know, I got and I did a bit of grinding for this. I got up to like attack 7, I think it was, before the second dungeon, by grinding. If you go to this checkpoint here, this is a good early game grind, I find. If you go through here, and assuming you've dropped... Oh, there's a rope there that I haven't got dropped on as well. If you go through here, there's a load of enemies that spawn. You can go up, fight the big enemy there, push the button there to spawn an enemy, enemies, big enemy, through here, save, go down to the Underlabs, and then work your way back and forth across here. You can get a chunk of early game experience really quite quickly. Sorry, bones. And you can bone up quite quickly in that regard. And yeah, I got up to about, I think it was attack 7 and defense 5, something like that. The earlier you can get your attack and defense up, the more fun you will have. No, let's not phrase it like that. The more fun I had, because I felt the opening balance, the opening difficulty of the game was very high. But with a few levels under your belt, it reasonably quickly drops off, to the extent that most of my frustrations in the latter half of the game were from the burrowing mechanic and the platforming. But again, I'm not talking about well, clearly I have talked about mechanics now. I'm going to go, because I've spoken for over 30 minutes. Mina the Hollower. I'm not going to give this one a rating, because it's not a Metroidvania. It's not going on my tier list of Metroidvanias, because it's not a Metroidvania, although there are some games on there that aren't Metroidvanias. Let's be real. Yacht Club, my apologies. Yacht Club Games are a bit of an indie darling after Shovel Knight. I'm not a huge fan of Shovel Knight. I don't see the hype. I can see some of the hype in this game, but I'm not saying it's Game of the Year material or anything like that. It was a good time, and I enjoyed it, and as often happens with games that I'm enjoying but not loving, I get more enjoyment, which gives me an overall better impression of the game from mapping the game. Because I get, shockingly enough, I get enjoyment from doing the map thing. I know who else would spend 1,700 screenshots and dozens upon dozens upon dozens of hours doing this if they didn't enjoy it. An insano person, that's what. So yeah, as far as I am concerned, this map is basically done. The only thing that isn't marked on this map, and I've just remembered to talk about this, all the trinkets are on there, all the keys are on there, jewel box, bonus stones, some places where you can find the fish. The key locks are not marked on this map. And the reason for that is pretty simple. If you've got all the other stuff, as far as I'm aware, you have to have got through all the key locks. I don't believe there are any locations in the game, any things in the game that where a key lock doesn't lead you to something else that you need. Now, if that is annoying to people, and I want the key locks on as well, I would need to go through and draw in all the cave systems, because there are certain things where you need to go through multiple caves. But I've tried to leave them on in the overworld as and when I could. I'm going because I need to go and play the Onimusha demo and record that, because that's just come out and I'm really looking forward to that, because I really enjoyed the old school Onimusha stuff. So yes, apologies if you wanted this and don't want to toss me £3 to pay for it. That is fair. Yeah, it is absolutely fine to want something and not want to pay for it. But I'm going to estimate that I've spent at least 80 hours on this. At least. I might spend some time this afternoon actually counting this up. If I do, I'll leave something in the comments about actually how many hours have I spent on this, because I'm kind of intrigued. Thank you for watching. How are you all finding Mina the Hollower? I feel like I might have been a little bit down on it in this video. I've had a good time with Mina the Hollower, but I did go in with a certain set of expectations, and in some ways they were not met. It's not a Zelda game in any way, shape or form. And it has some design decisions which I don't like. But the developers have given me the tools to turn them off, to change them. It just unfortunately disables all of the achievements, which is why I guess so many of the achievements and trophies are for doing specific things in specific ways, as opposed to just complete the thing. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for the support. Hopefully you enjoy the map if you do support me for it. And as I said, the OS6 map available in my Google Drive right now for everybody. Cheerio. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, why not click the like button and consider subscribing. Remember, you can ring the bell notification icon to get notified when new videos go live. And until next time, cheerio.